Alrighty guys, so for this week's Scrappy Wednesday video, even though it's definitely a day late, but technical difficulties re-downloading this took a bit of time. But jumping right in, I made this card for a special someone around this time last year. And when I make cards for people, I try to make it not as generic as possible, if that makes any sense. Basically, I take certain aspects of whoever's personality they're for. Like this case for this person, they love red and black combinations, so I've been doing red and black cards for them for a while whenever I do make them a card. And in each bit of it, I make sure that that color story kind of just keeps the same. So after distressing a lot of the edges of these papers, I added some red because there was so much black that I wanted to really bring out more of the red paper that was there, and used the random bit of the doily to like ground it up and make it look like more distressed and all that, you know, like I'm running out of fancy words to describe this. But before I started ripping and tearing and everything, I thought of the color story I wanted to use and grabbed a plethora of supplies that I typically use for these cards. All the paper and ribbon and flowers that I could find that matched this color story. So it made my progress a lot faster than it typically would if you just started from like a blank thing and then like was going through your supplies before you even like as you're going. I mean, it just makes it a lot more time efficient. Remember when you're doing this too, to always kind of have an idea of where you want the paper to go before you start gluing, because I made that mistake when I was first starting making cards and it ruined a lot of paper, let me tell you. So after I glued down all the paper, I used these stencils from the Jim Holtz collection and put in a lot of this molding paste and just kind of randomly and not perfect at all into the stencil, because then it makes it look like a true mixed media type of a card. Like really, basically for mixed media, you want to make it as imperfect as possible. The more imperfect it is, the more perfect it is, if that makes any sense. Now this stuff kind of takes a bit to dry, so I try to do other parts of the card around it without going too over top of it before it's completely dry, because usually you don't want to like have that part flatten out too much. So that's why when I was doing the stencils of these music notes, I tried my best to lift up the stencil away from the one that I had previously done, otherwise it would have just meshed it and it wouldn't have looked as nice. And the reason I chose these stencils is that this special someone really likes music, and he used to have a bird, and sadly the bird passed away, but I like to keep that theme whenever I make this person a card. And unfortunately this spritz for this color was not working. I think the spritzer is broken somehow, so I just kind of like traced it and tried to make it as splattery and messy as I possibly could without having the spray, but honestly it would have looked so much better if the sprayer was just gonna work. And with my cards, I really like to distress every single piece of scrap paper that I have. I really don't like the look of super clean lines. It's just not as cute to me. I don't know, it just looks like too cutthroat and basic. So that's why I like to make everything like really soft looking. And sadly though, all the papers that I was using for this card, they really are just scraps from different random collections, and these papers are so old that I honestly can't remember like exactly what the collections are, so I won't be able to link them at the bottom like I do with most of my other tutorials, but I remember some of the brands, so I'll link the brands' websites that I know for a fact these lines are from. I just won't be able to tell you the exact collection's name but honestly, it'd probably, even if I did know the name, it'd probably be hard to find because a lot of these papers I bought like at least 4 years ago, so it'd be pretty tough to find. Sadly, this had a little bit of a weird mark on it when I was trying to get rid of the excess glue, so I just kind of rolled with it, and since it looked a little bit black, I was like, okay, at least it kind of matches the color story, it's fine. And each piece I really like to layer it up as much as I can. I find the more layers you have on a card, the more interesting it looks. So even though this card looks like it's taking a very short amount of time, it actually takes about like at least an hour to 2 hours, depending on how used to making cards you are. Like, since I've been doing it for a few years, I kind of know the basic of like what corner I want to start in and how certain layering techniques work. But when you're first starting, like, really let yourself have time to play around, because it's honestly way more enjoyable like that if you're not in a rush. But when I remember when I made this card, I was not in a rush, and that's actually why I didn't upload it basically until now, because I was like, oh, I'll make it, and I'll eventually make a video out of it when I have time to edit it, or like this week where I didn't have time to finish my bullet journal video, and I needed something quick to put out, so I was like, this works just fine. And for the little corners here, instead of just having flowers, because it was more of a masculine card, I tried to add some kind of like, not necessarily jewels, but just like little trinkets and stuff. You can get them at most scrapbook stores, and these trinkets I actually got entirely from a scrapbook store, and most of the time I like to use like random bits from just like, I don't know, I guess an average garbage thing from other people, but this time I used mostly stuff that I bought. So because the spritzer wasn't exactly working as well as I wanted it to, I used a Q-tip to add some black onto the molding paste pieces just to bring them out a little bit more, because after I started layering a little bit extra on top, it was starting to get lost into the white paper, so I thought adding some black to it would really make it pop more. So the last little thing I wanted to add is because he has facial hair, so I was like, oh, a little mustache will be a little cute extra point in. So yeah, that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial and maybe learned a little something extra. And let me know if you want me to do some more cards, because as of right now, that was my last one that I bulked up. So yeah, let me know, and I'll see you guys next Scrappy Wednesday.